Today we're going to talk about how to do effective research. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and start by going to Google. This should sound straightforward so far. We're going to first talk about how to identify credible sources when you're just doing a Google search, a regular Google search. So we're going to look up conflict in marriage. All right, so we're going to pull up the first actual article that we see. 6 steps for resolving conflict in marriage. So whenever you pull up a website, the first thing that you should do is you should identify if there is a person's name that's associated with the source. So far, they're usually at the top or at the bottom. And I don't see an author of this. I don't see an author for this article, so I would immediately say I can't identify what makes the author an expert on the topic. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis Rainey. So oftentimes, let's say that we couldn't find the author. If I can't find the author, I automatically can't verify whether or not it is a credible source, so I don't use it. Once I do find an author, like I do here, I go and I find out what can I learn about this person, whether or not they're an expert on the topic. To become an expert on the topic, they need to have a degree they need to have some form of education in that specific area. So when we're talking about conflict in marriage, we're looking for things like, do they have a degree in psychology or communication or counseling, social work? Those are the types of things that we're looking for. If it's a different topic, it needs to be specific to that topic. Not any degree will work. Let's go to another source. This is a great one. Now, at first glance, we already see an author. Let's see what this says. It just says their list of topics. It doesn't have their education. But I will say that this is a credible source just because I know this source. It is the Gottman Institute, a research-based approach to relationships. They're actually the leading researchers and counselors for conflict in marriage. The Gottmans actually pioneered the field of conflict resolution in marriage. They are able to predict divorce in marriage by viewing a couple's interaction with like a 97% success rate. So this will be a rarity that you will be able to just go ahead and know that they're experts on the topic, but because of the source, we do know that. Let's go to focus on the family. Let's see if we do have a source. We do have a name. Let's just assume that this person has a degree and is an expert on the topic. The next thing that we need to look at is oftentimes a dead giveaway that a source should be questioned is the title itself. Conflict in marriage is messy. It's complex. If someone is trying to argue that it can be solved in a short number of steps, that should be a red flag. So anytime where in the title it is oversimplifying a complex issue, you can almost always assume that it's not credible, and so you can remove it. Another thing to look for is who is the source, the organization that's publishing that information. For this one, it's Focus on the Family. So depending on your audience, that might be really persuasive. For a more general audience, so in other words, not a Christian university, Focus on the Family will not be a credible source to them because they perpetuate very specific ideas. Now, it's really important on any source where it's an organization like Focus on the Family or any .org it's important to realize that they are getting funds for perpetuating very specific ideas. And so if you're using a source like a .org or like Focus on the Family, where it's a nonprofit or a for-profit organization, it's important to situate that and balance that with either an organization that gets money for or gets financial and governmental support via the perpetuating the opposite ideals, or you need to find a more neutral source that doesn't get funds by perpetuating specific ideals that align with specific ideas. So let's go ahead and we're going to look up a different topic. Actually, we're going to stick with the same topic. We're going to go to this Huffington Post article. So with Huffington Post, it's a news article. Let's look. We see that it's written by Terry Gaspard, a licensed clinical social worker, talking about can marriage thrive with unresolved conflict. So far, this is checking out as a credible source. The next thing that you would want to do is you would want to see, are they citing other people? Here are the Gottmans. That's a really great indicator if you know that there's an expert in the field and you're looking at another source. Are they citing that expert in the field? If they are, that's a really good sign. The next thing that you want to look for are, does it make logical sense? Does the article actually in its entirety make sense? Does it have contradictions? Those are the things that you can look for. So I would say that this definitely passes the first glance on whether or not it's a good article to use. Let's say that we were looking at gun control. I'm looking at things that none of you should actually be using for your speeches. I really want to do a news source. San Francisco Chronicle. So when you're looking at sources, one thing that you need to look for are, first off, lots of pop-ups. How are they getting revenue? Are they getting revenue through lots of ads, which is causing them to have to perpetuate specific ideals? Sometimes you're not going to have access to the full article, so that's a problem. The next thing you need to look for is, again, the author, what's making them an expert. Now, oftentimes, the author will have background in simple journalism. So what this makes them an expert on is observing the truth and reporting it. Now, once they move into opinion, that's when they become not credible on that topic unless they have specific education or experience with what they're talking about. But usually, you can only use news sources to describe events or observation of experiences, not actual opinion or expertise. So here are some things that you can look for that I will automatically accept as being credible. .gov means that it is been evaluated by the government, which there's questions about government right now, so there are some issues with that. But as a whole, I would say if it has .gov at the end of it, I will accept it. .edu is a really great indicator that it's written by an expert, and it's been peer reviewed. So I will always accept those as well. Let's go through some surefire ways to find good sources. So moving past identifying not credible sources, let's talk through how to find some credible sources. So what I like to do is I like to go to Google Scholar. So it's just scholar.google.com. And I also like to pull up this school's website and go to their library. And I like to start at Google Scholar. And let's say I'm going to still look for conflict in marriage. and I'm going to come up with lots of sources. So sometimes you're going to be able to view the entire article through here. Other times you won't. But what Google Scholar comes up with it comes up with peer-reviewed journal articles, which means that they're written by an expert in the field and it's been reviewed by other experts in the field. It goes through several edits from experts on the field before it ever gets published. It's usually based off of extensive research in the field, and they're written over several months, to be honest. So they are definitely experts. If you pull it off of Google Scholar, I will always accept it. But let's talk about books for a minute. If you don't have time to read the entirety of the book, unless each chapter is written by different people, I suggest not using the book. So we're at Google Scholar. Some of these I can see the whole article, some of them I can't. So for those that I can't, I like to, let's pull this one up. I like to copy and paste the article into the search of the library website. And because the library website is really great when you know what you're looking for, but if you don't know what you're looking for, I like to start at Google Scholar, find whatever I can there, and copy and paste to get these specific articles that I want here. So here, I couldn't get it in Google Scholar, but I can view the full text here. So if you're pulling it through the library website, I'm going to accept it as written by an expert as well. So it passes the sniff test for whether or not it's a credible source, because it's been peer reviewed most likely. All right, so once again, I would usually start at Google Scholar and pull off sources there. Another way on the normal Google, let's say I want to look up the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Gottman. It's gonna pull up Gottman, of course, but I want to actually pull up the Wikipedia page. It's so funny because so much of this has already been, so many people have already talked about it, Wikipedia is not coming up. So let's just go to Wikipedia then. We're just going to pull up this one. So what I like to do, it doesn't matter what it is. I say that you can use Wikipedia, you just can't cite Wikipedia. What you can do is you can use it to get a base understanding of your topic, so that you can better refine the language that you're using when you're searching. And what I really like is I can find some sources by scrolling to the bottom of the Wikipedia page and looking at what they're citing. So sometimes it has links to the full articles here. So if you're at a place where you are really struggling to find articles, I would Wikipedia whatever you're trying to look for and find articles there. All right, those are the main things to keep in mind of when you are researching how to find credible sources. If you have questions, again, you always can ask. And the last thing to always remember is that if you cannot identify what makes the author an expert on the topic, then, or if for some other reason it does not pass the sniff test for credibility, you cannot use that source.